スタジオ3万
On episode 3 of the Chester Pride cast, we're going to be talking all things mental health. We'll be exploring our own personal experiences, mental well-being, and also the things that have worked for us. We've also got a very special guest in the studio with us today. Before we begin, we'd just like to say the following content may contain strong language and adult material that may not be suitable for all audiences, so your discretion is advised. Any views or advice expressed on this podcast are the views of Chester Pridecast and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Chester Pride. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Chester Pridecast, where today we'll be talking all things mental health. I'm Andrew, I'm in the driving seat this week, and with me in the studio we have...
Wesley.
And I'm here as well, TJ.
Back with no more demand.
Exactly, no demand.
Carla.
Diana.
And Jason.
Jason's back off holiday. Hope you had a lovely time.
I have had a terrible time.
I've seen all the pictures online.
Not all of them. Trust me.
And this week we are joined in the studio by a very dear friend of mine and very special guest. We have Ian with us. Also, some of you may know them as Sha Ggerada. Hello, Ian.
Hello. You alright?
A lot more shy when they're not Sha Ggerada. So this week we are going to be speaking all things mental health. Very, very serious subject. A very large subject as well, which has many levels to it. So I think this week might be a little bit more of a somber episode, but, you know, we'll take the journey together.
We'll all hold each other's hands.
Basically, this is going to be...
Kumbaya.
Yeah. It's going to be group therapy, basically, this week.
I think we need that.
Yeah. Though now I know I'm happy to share a few of my own challenges that I face with mental health.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So people are happy to share their experiences and what they've been through. Ian is here because Ian has quite a lot of experience when it comes to helping support people through the counselling hub, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Ian does some amazing work for people within the community and also our allies as well, and people who just need that extra little bit of support. So, Ian, do you want to quickly tell us a little bit about the sort of things that you do with the Counselling Hub and the sort of services that get offered?
Yeah, we'll start off with we're a non-profit charity and we provide help for people. It's unconditional help. When you can't get referrals or you're waiting 12, 18 months to see a psychologist, counsellor or psychiatrist, that's when people come to us. And it's usually word of mouth now because we've been bombarded with that many patients. But we don't actually call them patients, we call them friends.
Oh, that's a bit kind. Yeah, it sounds kinder, doesn't it?
And it's even though we have the qualifications and everything, we're quite unconventional when it comes to treating people and helping people.
Yeah.
I use personally a buddy system where we get out, we walk, we talk or we run. Get the endorphins flowing.
Nice.
Get exercise
Giving people purpose to wait, to shake off what they're feeling in the morning, knowing got to meet top of Moldama, base of Snowdon, or wherever it is.
Yeah.
And it gives people a drive to, to actually, oh God, I've got to do this now. The other therapies are within the Counselling Hub. That's psychotherapy and counselling, advanced counselling, and there's no judgment.
Yeah,
that's basically what we do.
It's nice that you call them friends, because I think like when you use the word patient, straight away you're thinking there's something wrong with me and I need this help and stuff. But if you're saying friends, it's sort of like, you know what, there's nothing wrong with me. I just need a bit of help. So
just going through something.
Yeah,
that's the difference with you become familiar. Most of the people I work with, we get them on track and then they become mentors. And it's like what we had in the military. It's called the buddy system where you have allies. Even if you're in the wrong or you've fallen off the wagon or you've snorted a bit of coke, whatever it is, we don't judge. We say, well, and we're not there to do that. And that's a boundary that in normal psychology terms you have got to report or and we don't do that. And the network I've built with my gang of people. If one of our friends can't get hold of me or one of the other guys, they've got this community now, and it ranges from hard-ass military men to freshly gay, come out the closet people.
Yeah.
You know, there's seems to be no boundaries, and we found even the toughest of people relate with the youngest people from different walks of life, different cultures, different sexualities, and you find if you have something in common with another person, all that BS drops.
Yeah. And I suppose if you're going on this journey, it's not linear. So you may relate to someone at one point of your journey, and then you may, you go off on track, follow something else. You may need a different kind of care from somebody else on the team as well.
The thing is, it's connecting with people. All the years of studying psychology and the degrees, it's out the window. I speak in layman's terms. I haven't the vocabulary. I don't remember half the words or the terms when I was doing it, all my studying and everything. I speak from experience. You use the basis of psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever it is, you use the basis of it. But if you connect and speak in layman's terms, I don't mean effing and jeffing, being crude or what have you. It's connecting with that individual and then introducing them to people that are like-minded. And everything else goes out the window. You have something in common. Which is most of the time life-threatening to some people.
I guess it also comes down to, like you just said, the community. It also then highlights that, one, you're not on your own doing it. There's other people and, other people like yourself that are going through it. Because I've had counselling and I've had one-to-one counselling, which then led into group counselling, and they are so very different. There'll be things that I'll want to talk about personally to my counsellor that I can't talk to about the group, and vice versa. So I think it is having that balance, isn't it, of where you're able to come out.
Biggest problems especially for mental health and things like that, is isolation. And I think if you can bridge that gap, and like as you said, everything you just pointed to is towards getting over that sense of isolation. I think you win half the battle. Then it's when people are isolated and they're suffering and they're going through problems. That's when it's a very dangerous area, and I think that's when you can lead and go even worse. But if you've got that communication and the feeling that you're not the only person dealing with this, you're not the only person in the world that's got these problems, and other people can relate to you, then I think really you're on the right path then towards recovery in a lot of situations.
So two things that I want to just touch on actually through this conversation. Whereas when you had your counselling, you had your one-to-one, then your group, was it sort of like in like a clinical setting, or was it in like a community centre, the group stuff, and how did that add a slight barrier because it was sort of in an environment that you then associated with the therapy, whereas what you do, Ian, like you said, with the walks and things like that, does it feel like the therapy becomes more organic maybe because you're out in, and you haven't got those other barriers around you?
Yeah, so I guess from my experience, they try and make it as comfortable as possible. So it is like sofas, and with my one-to-one, it was just in a blank room. There was a chair I could just sit on, relax. If I didn't want to talk, that's fine too. And then in a group setting, I think because everyone's kind of guarded straight away, I think then once you start like the therapy, you're all in the same kind of boat. Like, for example, we did CBT, and then led on to like yoga, and there was one guy that fell asleep snoring, and we all found that so hilarious. So that was kind of
you had then it made that sort of common thing for you all,
exactly
the same sort of thing. And then I kind of want to touch on what you said as well, Jason, because look, we've all just actually come out of basically Armageddon, haven't we, with the dreaded Rona. Isolation is key there. So many people were forced into isolation and were forced into be alone. Are you feeling in the effects of like people's mental health sort of taking a much more of an accelerated sort of increase post-COVID?
It's No, not really. It's always been there.
Okay.
But there isn't always the help, and as you said, some people don't do the group thing. Some people don't like one-on-one in a clinical environment. And in my experience, I found people would just tell me what I needed to hear, but I can read that and I know they're bullshitting me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, So we have the counselling and the therapy within the hub and our different centres. But what works for my crew and the people, it works better. And it's, as I say, it's not all psychology. It's not all, bamboozling people with perception and reality and all the different nonsense that you're told. It's about, tomorrow will be a better day. It could be a worse day. But it's helping people to start living again and realising depression isn't a long-term disease.
Yeah. One point my partner made, because he's been going through a hard time, and he won't mind me saying about it, but it's everyone talking about it all of the time. He's almost bored of it now, where everyone focuses on that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So where you're saying we go and do things, it's taking them out of that mindset and needing to talk about it constantly, because they know what's going on, and the person that they're with knows what's going on. It's taking them out of that. That helps is the basic therapy, really.
But I think one of the big misdemeanors is that we try to separate mental health and physical health. In my opinion, they're exactly the same. They're as valid as each other. And I think what we get, there's a problem with labelling it mental health, because a lot of people's idea of what is mental is not real, not tangible. And to me, mental health is, it can be a number of physical chemicals in the brain. There's all sorts going on. These are physical things. These are health problems. These are things that people can deal with and can actually, through exercise, through things. It's surprising how such things, even as you're walking and things like that, if you can just do something that will create certain chemicals, it doesn't have to be dead on dealing with, talking about it and things like that, because quite often, the person doesn't know why they feel the way they do. They don't know why they're experiencing what they're experiencing, because a lot of the times it is to do with some form of chemical imbalance, or something firing off wrong, or there's something else. And these things have been built up through neural networks in the brain and things like that. I mean, that's my understanding of it. And I think the more that we actually deal with it by sort of like recognising that there's not a separation between mental and physical health, it's health.
Well, that's just it.
That's what we need to do.
If you've got a broken leg, you're not just going to ignore that, are you?
Exactly.
So it's just the same. If you've got an imbalance of chemicals in your brain and you need them medicated, just like any other kind of illness in your body, why is that any different to... Because it is still a physical... It's still physical. So.
After so long, the medication becomes a placebo.
Yes.
That's it.
It stops working.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of stigma as well of going on to antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. There's these labels that come with it so much. And, it does potentially become a placebo effect, but also it becomes, I can't come off this. If I come off this...
You become reliant.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dependent on it. Becomes who you are then.
And I'll be honest with you, medication works in conjunction with something as well. If there's quite a harmony, I believe, between the two. So yes, we can medicate and also meditate.
Yes,
having that balance between the two. Pull back that well, really well. You did that. That was seamless. So someone gave me advice many years ago when I was having a bit of anxiety and I was suffering from some depression and also stress as well, all in a big ball. They basically turned around and said that mental health and emotional imbalancing and depression can sometimes be a bit like a cold. Imagine it's like an emotional cold almost. Yeah. You could probably get a cold every year, okay? And you deal with it.
And you get over it. That doesn't mean that you're never going to get a cold ever again in your life, okay? Exactly. You may get 2 the year after, and that's okay. It's that sort of, and for me, that's always resonated with me, because it's a case of, I'm fixed. Actually, no, I'm good at the moment. Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it won't be in the future, but I'm not going to, you don't worry and panic about getting a cold every year.
But I think there's ways of building up, just like it is with the physical body. There's ways of building up your immunity, there's ways of making yourself stronger. And I think a lot of it is, again, through doing something, doing an activity. I mean, when I've talked about, I'm a holistic therapist, when I've like dealt with people and I've actually said, look, you need to change you need to look at yourself as a whole, your life, the people that you're dealing with, the people that you're allowing into your life. It's never just one area. There's always some other factors on the outside. And I think the thing is again, it's all linking everything together in the health and dealing with it as a whole. If you can get the person to increase their endorphins in their brain naturally, if you can get them to, exercise does this, if you can get them to find a meaning and a purpose by doing something. I think a lot of the problem as well is the fact that people sit and think about it. And people have a lot of time. When we were just talking, weren't we, Ian, about social media and things like how we are bombarded by so much information, and there's so much out there, and that creates so much stresses in life and things like that. Where at one time you weren't bombarded by that. You'd go out and you'd do something. Yeah. And you'd actually, I think people need to do more.
But that's societal shift. That's the problem. So much is now on social media, and and it is that very much like a case of that glam life that you see. Everything's fantastic, roses around the door. We don't know what's going on when that door closes. Exactly. I mean, Ian, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have friends who, as people are using the counselling hub, who you might go on the first walk with them, and you don't really get anything out of them, and it takes a couple for them to more like drip feed, and then they start coming out themselves a little bit more. And do you find it's very much a sort of tailored therapy? It's all about that person and what that person needs at that time.
It's tailored to the individual.
Yeah.
I psychoanalyze, break down exactly what they need and everything, and then evaluate and see where we go from there. Everybody's different. Okay. Nobody's the same. You can't just say, right, Joe Bloggs is coming this morning. You can't.
There's only so much you can do as well.
You can't say exactly what's wrong. It could take 6 sessions. It could take 66 sessions.
And I suppose a lot with medication as well, because this is kind of my experience with it and people I've known with it. It's very much a short-term fix. You need to get the therapy to kind of untangle the bigger problem so you can come off the medication.
Am I wrong in saying, I mean, this is just me being a bit thick, but am I wrong in saying that, would you not say that medication has a tendency of dealing with the symptoms and not necessarily the cause, which can give them a hand up, and a help maybe, but quite often it's got to be looked at. Again, I'm only looking at this from a holistic point of view. You've got to look at changing the whole person's sort of like lifestyle, everything, which probably is where what you're doing comes in tremendously, because I think the fact that someone has actually taken the step to turn up.
That's the first step.
Turn up to do a walk, or to do, to even just turn up with everybody else. I think that is a massive hurdle that they've already accomplished.
It's like taking a brick wall down. You take brick by brick, bit by bit down to the base, the foundation. That's where you usually find a cause. It's everything. Everything has a knock-on effect, regardless how significant or insignificant it is to other people.
Yeah,
and then to help people process and realise what's going on, why they're feeling the way they're feeling, is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Saying, right, I'm feeling like this, and
that's half the battle as well.
I disagree with having like a cold and everything.
Okay, that's fine.
Once somebody addresses, they can lapse and they can, fall off the wagon, wherever it is. But normally the support isn't there, regardless what therapist or what doctor you go to, you are judged and you can see it in people's faces.
Yeah.
And if people know they can turn to an organisation, not just saying us, there's lots of organisations, but aren't going to condemn you and, put you down or make you feel bad, for having a drink when your sobriety and everything else. It's understanding, and knowing that nobody's going to have a go at me, but they're there. And you don't become like their backbone or their rod or anything.
No, yeah.
But knowing you've got that support, and through, as Jay says, Jason,
how we call this?
Is physical does help the brain. It balances the chemicals out in the brain. The endorphins overrides, the bad chemical, the things that make you feel down and make you feel moody, angry, or whatever it is, feel good, like eating chocolate.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, just one comment that you made about judgment, like from when I had my therapist, I went in with the assumption, he's going to diagnose me, all this kind of stuff. And he said, just tell me how you're feeling, what's been going on. And it's almost like I felt prejudged and waiting for him to judge me.
People don't want that. You don't want to hear
They don't,
that,
but
or you don't.
He didn't. He just sat there and listened. And I was sat on there, I'm just looking at him going, just say something to me. Just respond to what I'm saying. And he didn't. So it gave me a chance to speak more. And, after the first session, you feel completely drained, mostly dead inside. But then the more you do it, and you don't even have to do a therapist, you can just speak to a friend, a family member. If they're there willing to listen and listen to what you're saying, that's a lot of therapy in itself, I found, is speaking about it. That's why with my kind of issues that I've had in the past, I don't mind speaking about. One, because it breaks down stigma around these kind of issues. But two, it's almost continued therapy for me to be like, look, I've had this. I still kind of go through this, but it's not a demon to me anymore. It's just part of something that I go through or I've got with me.
But doing that's going to help somebody else out who's struggling to come to terms with it, or say it to somebody, just hearing that you're not so comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Might make somebody else think,
other people might find that as a weakness, even going to a therapist or a counsellor.
Oh, certainly.
If you can disguise what you're doing without... They know what they're coming for, but if you can disguise, I'm going to start walking, I'm going to start running, couch to 5K type thing, it changes a person's perception on, the weakness is empowered. They're taking control, but they're not realising they're getting subliminal advice and messages that help them on their way.
Because you're right that people see it as a weakness, because like when I was having a tough time and I was on antidepressants, I got really emotional and upset with myself, thinking, why do I need to take a tablet every day just to be normal?
Yeah.
And then that was making me worse, because I was thinking, I shouldn't have to have this. Everyone else is normal. And then I was seeing it as a weakness, because I think with medication, you think you have a problem and that it's something wrong with you. But you're thinking it's your fault. And it's something wrong with you that you need medicating to be normal.
I think the thing is as well, I think that the again, it's all down to this factor of not looking at mental illness and things like that like any other illness. It's and to see saying that yes, there's something wrong with you as, I don't know, like the stigma attached to it. If, as you said before, you use the analogy of, right, if I broke my leg is then weak. I have to wait for it to heal. What is wrong? We don't think anything wrong with that.
No.
So we have this idea that if we say, oh, I have a weakness mentally, I am injured mentally, I am emotionally injured, or I've got something else that's injured, or that has to be rebuilt, what is wrong with that? I think we need to change the stigma and the idea of saying that there's a weakness there, saying that there's an illness there, saying there's a problem there, and personalize it and making it out, like you said, making it out like it's my fault. You won't blame yourself. I mean, well, if you fell over, it's your own fault. You were drunk, you fell over, but you accept it more. And I think it's all down to acceptance. I think you've got to be more realistic and say, yes, right, fine. Yes, I have a problem. I have to deal with this problem, but don't stigmatize it, if that's the right word. Don't make it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You learn, you're taking control. You take control as, I don't call them specific illnesses, ADHD, this, that, and the other. It is, it's a quirk. It's part of your personality. If you're miserable, you're a miserable so-and-so.
You say what you were going to say.
If you're constantly happy, there's different...
Constantly happy,
different.
You're also miserable.
No, but it's...
Could be everybody else miserable.
You can break down everything, analyse everything, But everybody is different. You know, one minute I'm high as a kite, next minute I'm like, oh.
But that's
God.
the thing as well. I find a lot of people will say, "Oh, I must have depression because I'm sad." No, it's okay to be in a certain place at the moment.
Yeah.
Just like you're happy sometimes. You have levels. When we're all human, we all have these emotions. It doesn't mean you have to, you know, put yourself in a box like we've discussed before. Put yourself in a box to be like, oh, I must be depressed because I'm feeling sad at the moment.
Wes, are you saying that life is like a roller coaster?
Oh God! No.
Lots of roller coasters. No, but I agree. No, I agree with you on that. I think I don't know. Obviously, it's like the rainbow. You know, it's multifaceted. It's not just one thing.
Spectrum.
Yeah, it's a massive spectrum.
Yeah.
Well, it leads into one of the questions that we've received from one of our listeners on the Curious Cat. Again, say it every time. It's all anonymous. We don't know who sent these in.
It was me. No,
you can just ask for help.
thank you.
Andrew, have you got that with you?
I do indeed. So we've had from Anonymous. I'm currently taking dualoxetine for depression, and I have always struggled with my mental health. But recently, I found that I have zero motivation to do anything. Some days I don't want to leave the house, and I've gained a lot of weight over the last couple of years. I really want to start exercising, but it's difficult to get started. What tips do you have to get me motivated and stay motivated? So, put to the floor.
Befriend somebody. Somebody who, if they want to get themselves fit and lose weight, you know, do it with somebody, but make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know, if you hate running, don't run. If you hate walking, go swimming. If you're body dysmorphic, don't go swimming. You know, find something, you know, that you are happy to do, but you've got to have somebody to back you up with it and support you and encourage you and, you know, help you along with it.
Well, it's like I had a conversation today with a person in work, how we were talking about New Year's resolutions, and she was like, well, so what's your resolution? I was like, I don't, like a lot of people, they'll have a negative, almost a goal certainly, but a negative goal, like lose a stone. Instantly you're thinking, right, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Whereas if you say, I want to host a summer party this year, you know,
that's so gay.
or a barbecue. It's having a positive goal that you want to achieve, not just, I have to achieve this.
I mean, what I used to do as a PT was I used to try the way to help people to motivate is what people have a tendency of doing is they just see their goal and say, I've got to reach this goal. No, the best thing for you to do is split it up, the pathway towards this goal, split it up into stepping stones, and then only focus on the next stepping stone along the way towards your goal.
Yeah.
Because it means then that you're achieving every single day. It's not a massive big step that's far away in the distance, and it helps to build up motivation till you eventually reach that final goal.
Yeah.
And you not constantly have this ominous thing,
massive stone,
it's top of the mountain.
Yeah.
So, for instance, like I said, we're walking. Probably you'll find some people can't walk all the way to top and more that way, but may be able to walk to the first bench or walk to the next bit of wood or something like that. And I think if they do that and they feel I've accomplished something, that then builds up. I mean, I'm very much into neural programming, things like that. Builds up neural networks in the brain that is supporting that positive way of life and that positive attitude, which then slowly helps you towards achieving your goal. And I think that's what you need to do. It's stepping stone technique. It's called.
Yeah.
I was just going to say as well, because by the sounds of it, they sound quite isolated. They're not going out or anything like that. And just to even go out the house after being sat on your own is a massive step. And so, like, I would say maybe find a friend who isn't going to bombard you with questions, but will just come to your place or you go to theirs and just sit there.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have a conversation, just sit
Or
there.
contact me on Sha Ggerada Facebook and I will bore the liver out of you. You will have unconditional help and support and whatever you need to get you off your arse and get you doing what you want to do. I'll nag the arse off you until you do. That's an offer.
So, I mean, for myself, I know I've mentioned it before, but so I play rugby. So I play rugby for the Chester Centurions. So it's
shameless plug.
Shameless plug. I am going to shamelessly plug it because.
Are you wearing shorts tonight?
Yeah, shorts and socks tonight, boys. It helps my mental health. If I've had quite a stressful time at work, or I'm feeling quite low.
How on someone?
Well, yeah, but also there are so many people within our team that actually it has helped their mental health to no end. They're getting to play a sport that, at school, I wasn't a very sporty person. I didn't go to a rugby school, so I was quite isolated because I didn't like football. I wasn't one of the lads, but I liked rugby. We got to play it for one term. We never did it again. So then, 15 years later, I get to play rugby. And it is an inclusive team, so everybody's welcome. We have a touch team, so we offer it out to men and a touch team. Yeah, but it is available to all genders.
Yeah.
And we do have people that say, "Oh, it's a bit rough for me." That's fine. We can offer you that touch side of it, but it's a team, and we are a team. And then you create links and networks with people. I mean, I met my partner through it. I've made some absolutely amazing friends through it, and during COVID. Each week when we would be training on the Friday, we were having a Zoom call. We were doing quizzes, wine tasting, costume parties, and a lot of people were living on their own. But that Friday, when they got a chance to actually see the team again, was a lifeline for them. And they've been able to back and that motivation to say, there's been a couple of people that I've noticed haven't been at training. I'll drop them a message and be like, how are you? Are you all right? Will we see you on Friday?
Community.
And that's the thing, and it does build that. So it is a shameless plug. So if you want to try something new, Chester Centurions, RUFC on Facebook and Instagram.
It's a good way substitution for escapism.
Yeah, and also for this person, I'll be honest with you, if you put a bit of weight on, it's perfect for rugby, in all fairness. I'm not as skinny as I used to was, but I've got a place in that team because my larger build actually works as well. And it's for all shapes, all sizes. So, don't let that stop you.
All sexuality.
It is. And
Genders.
I
thought it was just gay rugby team.
No, we're inclusive. We have heterosexuals on our team. Yes. No, everybody in. But it has helped so many people. And
They're a nice bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's fun. So much fun.
Do you not find... Sorry.
No, go on.
Just jump in. I'm going to say, obviously, because this is an LGBTQWXYZ...
Plus.
Sorry, don't forget the plus. Program, for want of a better word. Is it possible, just before we obviously move on, is to bring up, especially that I find that within the LGBTQ plus community, that we actually deal. I mean, would you say, Ian? Would you say that you find that mental health is higher? Would you say it's a higher percentage? Because obviously we don't have the same support. Even nowadays, we don't have the same. We don't have the same support in life or anything.
But there's a lot more now from when we were younger. Yeah. It was gays and straights, and then the bisexuals, and they were on their own.
Yeah.
Now, because because we, we evolve. 20 years ago, being queer was like, ugh. We'll beat you up. We're disgusted by you. It's wrong. But then it's been hard, from my perspective, to understand non-binary, gender fluid, and all the little differences that make a person and their personality and what they are. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that now. But learning to understand somebody's their perspective, where they're at, and everything. That's what society needs to do now, because everybody slags off. I even make a joke when I'm doing Shagger. The LGBT WXYZ plus and everything. But drag queens and gay blokes and lesbians used to do that years ago.
Yeah.
To each other,
I think, isn't it? Scoping.
And we used to strive to not have this label, and that's why the older in the gay community is struggling to understand, because we didn't want labels. We wanted to be classed as being normal, the same as you. What I do in my bedroom is nothing to do with you. It's not a preference, it's who I am. I don't choose to be gay.
Yeah.
I was born queer as Christmas, and I love the fact. I was going to say cock.
You were going to say cock. You just love cock.
For saying that.
We didn't say that. Following on from that, just some few stats for you when you mentioned about, and obviously life experiences and challenges that present LGBTQ plus people. So Mental Health UK have a few stats that LGBTQ plus people are 1.5 times more likely to develop depression and anxiety disorders compared to the rest of the population.
Wow.
And
because people get ostracised and families turn on their kids because they're born the way they are, and they don't like the fact. We've grown up with seeing straight people, television, everything's about straight people. Yeah. And now when we say, gays are on this, and, I don't want to know about transgenders, do one.
Yeah.
We've lived society. We've been force-fed heterosexuality.
A fake society, because it's not really like that behind closed doors.
And I own my sexuality. I own the fact that I like being a drag queen, and I own the fact that I am educated as well.
Yeah.
But nobody, that was force-fed by my mum when I told her, come up the forces, I'm gay. She goes, fabulous. You're unique, and that wasn't a false sense of security, but that made me feel that I was slightly better.
If you are straight, you don't have to prove you're straight. If you are supported by a whole society, you are supported by a network and centuries and centuries of tradition and things like that. You are supported by that. If you are an LGBTQ plus person, you are immediately, from the very first moment you start becoming aware of yourself, you are immediately forced to start questioning yourself. Mm-hmm. You are forced, I think in a positive way, it develops introspection, it develops empathy, it develops awareness, but also in the negative, it can develop depression, it can develop isolation, it can develop paranoia, it can develop all different things. But I think if you can win through that, and just as Ian just said, he owns it. And I put my hand up to you, mate, I totally agree with you. We own our sexuality because we have had to fight for it.
So, of all the common sexual identity groups, bisexual people are most frequently have mental health problems, including depression, anxiety, disorder. Bisexual people who identify bisexual have actually a higher percentage of mental health problems, including depression, anxiety disorder, self-harm, and also suicidal thoughts.
I think as well, because we mentioned it, was it last episode or the episode before?
I think it was the episode before,
bisexuals, because even in the gay community, bisexuals are looked at badly, because it's like, pick a side, or stuff like that. And gay people tend to pick on bisexuals,
and
even in our own community.
To the statistics there. It is education.
It's education, because you've got like me and Jace, gay as gay gets. And then you've got the bisexual, but there's sort of like
big grey area.
Like it sort of like fluctuates. The needle doesn't stay on that. Emotions, attraction can change with your hormones and your perspective on society or the individual.
I said on the first episode that I initially came out as bisexual, but I would call it a pendulum bisexual, where my attraction wouldn't just stay in the middle. I may be more attracted to females one time, then males. That messed a lot with not just me emotionally, but mentally as well.
I'm going to say something now as well, which might get me into trouble, because obviously my husband's a Roman gypsy. In the travelling community, the suicide rate amongst males in the travelling community is horrendous.
It's usually the young gay lads.
Yeah, and it's usually the young gay lads because they are forced. It's like they're 100 years behind in the way that they deal with homosexuality and things like that. And I mean, when he came out, we had death threats, and this was from family. We had death threats, everything. So that I think that'd be a good thing to maybe talk about in the future, something like that. But it is horrendous.
Here's a question from one of our listeners. Obviously, discuss amongst yourselves, but what would you consider the key differences then between a bad mental health day and depression, full-blown depression?
Depression. Oh gosh, it's hard. So
everything changes. It's the chemicals. Your moods change. You can have a suicidal day,
but that doesn't mean you have full-blown depression.
Yeah, but you can have full-blown depression.
It does if you get to that level of suicide.
Because you enter something called the tunnel, where if you're hell-bent on taking your own life, it's usually premeditated, it's orchestrated, it's planned. And it's up to us, friends, community, therapists, whatever you want to call them, to see those little things, shifts in personalities and their changes.
I don't know about you guys, but what really annoys me, if I'm to say something that upsets me, is someone to turn around and say, yeah, I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you don't know how I feel. Like, I feel how I feel. Just sit there and listen. Okay, this is my pain. This is why I'm upset. Don't pretend you know how I feel. Just
Stop trying to relate. Yeah,
I totally sympathise with you, but I think
that's the wrong word. You sympathise.
I know, yeah.
You've empathised.
Empathise, sorry.
That's the difference. That's the key. That's the key.
That's people just want to relate to what you're going through. It's human nature.
But I think you've got to realise as well, you're also asking a lot of other people around you. And I think that's a hard thing, because they're not trained psychologists. They've probably got their own...
Ian.
Yeah. No, you are, aren't you?
Yeah, well, trained.
No, he's trained. He's trained psychologist, yeah.
Oh.
Another fact from Mental Health UK is, I was quite shocked at this because I think it's very high, 67% of trans people had experienced depression in the previous year, and 46% of those people had thoughts of ending their own life. That's a massive statistic.
That's horrible.
Because society doesn't care about trans. A lot of people look, well, how can you just want to change your sexuality?
They don't understand it.
How can you change this, that and the other? They haven't got a clue. Talk, listen to somebody.
Actually listen to a trans person as well. Hear what our trans brothers and sisters are actually saying as to why they're feeling this way and what they need.
I know, I think one of the reasons it will be so high is it is just really hard to come to terms with yourself as a trans person and to, get started on your journey of transition at the moment. I mean, I've been on the waiting list for 3 years now.
Wow.
I've not heard anything off anyone.
How old are you, young man, me asking?
23.
Right.
And it's just like radio silence. And the waiting times are getting longer. I remember when I was a bit younger, when I sort of first came to terms and accepted that I was completely trans and stuff, I had especially because I hadn't socially transitioned in my day-to-day life. I had really, really bad dysphoria about just everything. And I think when so dysphoria is the or specifically gender dysphoria, because people have body dysmorphia, but gender dysphoria is the incongruity between what physically you are when you look in the mirror and how you truly believe you should be. And I remember thinking to myself, when I was in a really, really dark place with dysphoria, I don't think I can live for another, 2-3 years feeling like this.
Yeah.
Because there is literally nothing to do while you're waiting. 'Cause there's no,
There's no workbook.
No.
There's no task set for you. It is just literally waiting.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than a waiting game, is there?
Yeah.
So would you have advice for someone that might be going through the start of their transition?
I would say time passes so much faster than you think it's going to. When I first got on the waiting list and stuff, so I'm 3 years in now. I remember this, I really, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but you just distract yourself and do other things. In terms of your own transition, I got all the legal stuff done, name changes, documents and everything, and it's a ball ache, but it can be fun as well. And in terms of a social transition, which is things like your friend group and your work and stuff, I especially enjoy going out and meeting new people who never even knew me before. I find I used to just go out all the time drinking, because you go on a night out, you meet people you're never going to see again, and then they just, however I presented to them in that night, was that's how they're going to remember me forever, and I just found that really freeing.
Does it help if you meet someone fresh off the bat and they only know you as Diana?
Yeah, it's really nice for me to be around people that...
But you're determined by a board of doctors. These are the ones that will, and I'm not disrespecting any form or shape, the procedures that you have to go through, but they look at it, you're adolescent. You know, you could change your mind. We had one bad bit of press where somebody wanted to reverse.
Yeah.
And that's tainted.
But that's what
it's
they
knocked it back for
as
years.
well.
Yeah. And that's, they just one case. Yeah, that's actually 6 cases, but one was made public.
Yeah, and they will splatter that all over the newspapers and, like, especially, like, right-wing press and everything, because that's the narrative that they're, like, pushing to, like, push back against trans progression and trans rights and stuff. It's, like, the fear-mongering that they, like, pump into, you know, like... sort of like right-wing people when they're talking about like the family unit and stuff. They're saying like, you know, our children are destroying themselves and it's irreparable damage, and they want to do it to like young kids and stuff. But really, it's not happening like that. There aren't people in this country younger than 18 that get put on like permanent change hormones or anything like that. If anything, you can, I mean, like you were saying about the tribunal of people, whether they decide or whatever, you can get put on like blockers, hormone blockers, but all that really does is freeze you in some ways for a period of time, you know, and like, for people dealing with like really strong dysphoria, I know like I never, like as a young child I didn't experience this, but there are trans people that when they start going through puberty, like there's trans people that will mutilate themselves because they can't bear that physically.
And this is where the statistic comes.
Yeah, exactly.
13 to 21. You know, people aren't taking notice. People aren't seeing anything. You have the voice with our community to make this change and make them listen.
So this is my message at Pride on stage. I said an attack on part of our community is attack on all of our community. It's so more important, more now than ever, to stand with our trans brothers and sisters, because we are one community, and that is a thing. And Diana, I've only known you as Diana, and I think you're absolutely fucking phenomenal. So honestly,
we love you.
Yes. So
you have a strong voice. I like it. You speak so.
You remind me of Sinead of Corrie.
You're obsessed with naming people off Corrie. Thank you ever so much for sharing that. That was like phenomenal. So there is a service that I'm wearing called Sea Magic, which do work over in Liverpool, and also they are working with Chester Pride as well to support more of the trans community. So Sea Magic, I actually know the doctor who set that up. She is amazing, trans woman herself.
Oh, brilliant. Oh,
that's lovely.
And very much is a massive advocate and is fighting for speeding up the referral process and the waiting list. So work is being done, but it's not being shouted about enough.
No.
And that's the thing. So, last anonymous one. Hi, Chester Bridecast. Loving the podcast with everyone involved. A bit about me. I work in a high-demand job and have a high-demand life to match. What advice can you give to help keep me grounded and not fly away with the fairies?
I mean, we're all fools.
What's wrong with being
Well, then you can fly Virgin Atlantic. Is all I'm going to say.
Fall flat on your arse and then try and build yourself up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
what did you say? What was the question?
So
you said it too quickly.
Oh, sorry. To apologise. A bit about me. First of all, they said how great we are. So a bit about me. I work in a high-demand job and I have a high-demand life to match.
Okay.
What advice can you give to help keep me grounded and not flying away with the fairies?
What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Okay, so...
Grounded in what way?
From my perspective, I have quite a busy job. I have quite a stressful job.
Yeah.
And then I do other things outside of my job. And I've struggled with anxiety, depression, and stress. This past year, stress has sort of manifested itself in the fact that I have a little ball patch on the side of my head. So I have stress-related alopecia. So I've done things to sort of, again, keep my balance. So I've pulled back on some things. I've given up a couple of things to try and get that balance back because, it is a high-demand job that I do. I've had to make some adjustments. So I suppose my advice, looking at my personal experience, would be, again, find that balance. Okay, if you've got this many plates spinning, which one actually can you just put down for a little bit and pick back up? I'm studying for my masters. I've taken a year out from that because I needed it. Yeah. I just needed to regroup. And I've been supported through university and through work to take
you're only one person.
Exactly. But it does partly feed back into the stigma because I'm like, I should be good and going at 100% every time. No, I've come to realise that doesn't have to be the case.
I think, and this is obviously from someone from the UK, I think the thing is one thing that we are blessed in the UK is that we do have a safety net. There's quite a few safety nets for people to actually be able to take a slight break from things.
Yeah.
What I would say for people in the UK, because I cannot say for different countries because we all have different systems, but in the UK, if your job is causing you tremendous amount of stress that is creating health problems, give it up. Stop it. It's obviously not working for you, or find something else. Do not feel emotionally blackmailed. Do not feel that you haven't got other options.
I think a lot of workplaces are recognising this.
They're getting better at it.
They are getting better.
Well, if you've worked hard enough to get to where you are, fly with the fairies for a little bit. You'll come back down to ground,
Like, in terms of that, I think definitely, like, give yourself space and understand your emotional bandwidth, because if you don't, you're just going to burn out and you'll, like, come falling down.
I think don't prioritise other people too much, especially if you do feel overwhelmed. Because I think if you take on their stress and then you add your stress on, that's not very good. And also, allow yourself to do things just because they're fun.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So don't think like, I have to do this, I have
because
to do this.
Because it gets a certain goal.
Or say, I can only do this. I can only, walk my dog for 20 minutes because then I have to get back to this. Try to fill those gaps with things that you actually enjoy, because otherwise your day is just spent with other people's.
It's gone like that, then, isn't it? Yeah.
You're living for other people and you're not living for yourself, and I think that's what can get people down, because they think, well, what have I done for myself today? And then that's when you can get yourself in a rut, because you feel like people may depend on you too much and you don't want to let them down. But like Andrew said, try to delegate responsibilities where you can, and actually just open up to people and say, right, this is too much for me right now. I need a break for a little bit, and then I'll let you know when I'm back on track.
Perfect.
Exactly. This person sounds educated enough to get so far. And flying high.
You need to be strong enough to say enough's enough. I need this time. And I think with a high demand job, being able to differentiate between work and not work, and having that clear line of, that is work, I go there from 9 to 5, that is that, and I don't take it home with me.
Yeah, you check
if you're taking it home with you, then you're just going to build.
I guess it can be difficult though in that sense.
It depends what job.
It
does. But you need to have that clear line between your social life and your work life.
Issues, what's going on, they just carry on working and crash and burn.
I think the thing is as well, especially like obviously I own my own businesses, so being self-employed, you never don't work. As I joke, I once think, oh, you've been on holiday 3 weeks.
You've been on holiday?
I've been on holiday, yeah.
I didn't know.
I've literally worked every single day.
From remotely.
Yeah, remotely. Dealing with accountants, dealing with orders, everything. So
is this you? Did you write this? Curious.
I did write this. But this is the thing. So I think that what I have a tendency of doing is, even if it's half an hour, I will actually say to myself, right, phone's off, this is off. I will make that time for me.
A wank.
Yeah.
And you have to.
He needs his phone for that.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I need my phone for that.
You spoiled that then by saying wank.
You can say wank.
You don't say wank.
Yeah, you can say wank.
We've got a disclaimer at the start. That
Yeah,
basically
it's
says
as much as
adult
18.
content.
Never told me that.
Go on, Ian,
Well,
say something.
No,
wrong.
let's
Go on.
not. Let's not.
Where do I start?
You have, Wes, I believe you have, should we go for a final thought?
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
was actually sent in to us. So it's around recovery. So they've said recovery is invaluable. Although the journey is long and consists of many ups and downs, finding the inner strength and push forward and finding reasons to fight is so fulfilling. So I guess it kind of accumulates everything that we've just been saying. It's kind of like, yeah, you've got the shit. You've got to deal with it, but try and put a spin on it to make it enjoyable. So not only is the recovery easier, but it's fun as well. And I think what you do on your walks in, it's merging those two kind of like exercise to release the endorphins, but also like, unraveling a lot of a lot of shit that they're going through. It's almost being done subliminally. And I think that is it is amazing what you do. I've got to congratulate you.
So I think what we can take from what that person sent in from Curious Cat is that life is a roller coaster.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'm going to go now after that. So thank you so much for listening, and we will see you for episode 4.
Bye.
Lean on people.
Lean on people.
Lean on me.
Oh no.
Oh, not on you, Jason.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're struggling at the moment and feel you need that extra little bit of support and not sure where to turn to, Chester Pride offer the Just Ask service. All you need to do is email justask@chesterpride.co.uk or call 07718 066 684 and somebody will be there to help you.
Don't forget you can reach out to us or send in your dilemmas via the email pridecast@chesterpride.co.uk. You can drop us a DM on Twitter at ch1pride or send us your message anonymously via our Curious Cat found on Twitter. Chester Pridecast is produced by Studio 30,000.